All right, welcome to the Tier 2, Tier 3 panel discussion to prepare our Tier 1 students for their first college experience. I want to start by asking the panel to tell us your name, what tier you're in now, and how old you were when you started your first college class. Let's start with Christopher.
My name is Christopher Turner, and I'm 15, and I was 15 when I started my first college class, and I'm in Tier 2.
My name is Annie Torrey. I'm in Tier 3, and I was 14 when I started my first college class.
My name is Lauren. I'm in Tier 3, and I was 14 when I started my first college class.
My name is Garrett. I'm in Tier 3, and I was 14 when I started my first college class.
My name is Will. I'm 16, and I was 15 when I started my first college class.
All right, well, thank you guys for helping us out this morning. In the audience, we have all of our Tier 1 students who are going to be starting their first college class in January. Some will be starting in January, some will be starting in the summer, okay? So think back to when you were about ready to start your first college class. I want you to share what you were thinking and feeling before you actually started, because I'm sure they can probably relate to what you're feeling, all right? Will?
I think that I was feeling a little bit overwhelmed and really nervous because I always thought that college was just so high and mighty and so hard, that it was just so hard to do, and that a high schooler couldn't do it, and that it was so much more advanced than high school work. But once I got into it, I realized that it wasn't that much harder. It had more work, but it was definitely doable.
Okay.
I honestly was excited for college. I enjoy the challenge of different classes and learning different things. So getting to do college was like a fun experience for me, but I was nervous to start. I didn't realize what the professors were going to be, but the professors are all really nice. You just have to warm up to them real quick with some of them. And it's a great experience.
Yeah, I was pretty freaked out. I thought at my level, being like 14, I was a freshman in high school, I was like, I'm not ready for college. Like, I just started high school, I'm not ready for this. But once you get into it, you realize that you can do it, and it's manageable.
I was definitely scared to start it. I don't know, I guess I was just so uncertain of like what would be expected of me, and I didn't think that I was like personally going to be able to meet like college standards.
I was pretty eager. I mean, I obviously didn't know what it was going to be like to have a college class, but I figured it wasn't that much more difficult than a high school class, so I was pretty eager.
All right, great. So the first class, although it's really not a class, that the Tier 1 kids are going to have is TFC 100. It's a TFC orientation class. So what do you remember about that class, and what advice, insight can you give them about TFC 100? Anybody want to start?
Sure. It was easy peasy. You just got to go through it. It's just certain things that you need to do and tests that you need to get through, and they're not graded, and it's no pressure. So.
Do you remember how long it took?
I think I did it in 2 or 3 days, maybe. That like spreading it out. So it's really not too much.
All right. Annie?
It was so easy. I did it all in one day because I was probably procrastinating on it, so I probably just had to get it done. But you just go through it. You just have to get it done. It was really easy.
Okay. Anybody else have any insight into TFC 100?
Yeah, well, it's an orientation, so the purpose of it is to make your life easier. So, and it did a good job of doing that. Taught you how to use the site and how to properly search things and manage the site. So it was useful.
Great. All right. So don't neglect it. Make sure you do your TFC 100. It will help you. All right. So the first class for these students is going to be geography. All right. So our Tier 3 students, Garrett, Lauren, and Annie, have already had geography. So what advice can you give to these students about the geography class? Annie?
It was a pretty easy class. Honestly, there's tests and reading, that's it. Is there any writing? I don't think
Discussions.
so. There's discussion boards, and honestly, just do the discussion boards and like study for the test. They're not like hard tests. Honestly, it's geography, so it's pretty like easy, but you just have to do the reading for that class. That's definitely important.
Yeah, I wouldn't stress too much over that class because it is pretty easy. The quizzes are open book, so you read through. I personally skimmed most of the chapters because it can be a lot of reading and a lot of information. So you go through the chapters, you study a little bit, get through the quizzes, they're open book, and you can get PowerPoints and different things to help you study. And the thread discussions are really fun and very interesting, so I think you guys will enjoy those.
The quizzes are open book, like she said, but they are only 20 to 30 minutes. So make sure before you take your quiz that you know where the topics are in your book. That way you can flip back to them really quickly. If you do good on the quizzes, you do good on the class. It's as simple as that.
So would you recommend a strategy where you don't read the book, you just open it up and sit down for the quiz because it's open book anyway?
No.
No, I think you should still read through it because it gives you an understanding of the information in the book and where it is, and when you get to the quiz you'll be able to remember some things, but I wouldn't be too stressed out about focusing on every single thing in the book and reading through it and taking too much time to do that, because it is open book, and as long as you know the layout and you know where everything is, then you can look it up. So.
All right, great. So the second class that our Tier 1 students are going to take is going to be Intro to Communications, COM 113. All of our panelists have had COM 113. Will is smiling. I'm sure he wants to tell us about his COM experience first. So Will, any insight that you can offer for the communications class?
If you get Dr. Warner, be prepared. Because it's a good class. It's a good class. You'll learn about communication. I didn't know that there were so many parts to communication. I thought it was just talking. But I learned more about that it's a two-way street, and all the different parts to communicating with other people. But make sure that you stay on top of your work and you don't get behind, because if you get behind and it's 11:55 at night when the discussion posts and all that stuff is due and you're trying to type out all your stuff, you're not going to make it. So just stay on top of it.
Garrett?
Enjoy it, because it's a fun class. There's a lot of different parts to it. It's probably the most well-rounded class I've taken so far in college. They took the speech out of it, right?
Warner did, but other professors have not said
Okay. So there might be a speech, which is really good, like a first-time speech. They don't heavily grade on it, so it's like a great preparation for other speech classes that you'll have to take. There's a reflection paper. It's just like a well-rounded class that starts you into college.
Oh man, I'm having a hard time remembering it. It was my first college class, so pretty easy to go through. Like Will said, stay on top of your work, make sure you're getting everything done on time, and definitely enjoy it because it is really fun. But yeah, it's pretty simple. Nothing you haven't done before other than maybe the speech, but just some writing and stuff.
It was my first college class as well. So in that class, I was super stressed out, and I was so worried about making sure everything was right. So the professor, how he wanted it or whatever. I didn't get to really learn anything from the class. I was just too overwhelmed with getting everything right. So don't let that stress you out. Actually try to learn stuff from the class, because it was a really helpful class.
Well, the first thing is, depending on what the professor you get makes a big difference in your class experience. So with communications, Dr. Warner is more of a difficult professor possibly, or he expects more, but I think that's fine. It's just a higher level of writing that you have to accomplish. The lectures are somewhat interesting, somewhat dry. The first couple are interesting, but like Garrett said, it's a well-rounded class. You're going to write, you're going to have short papers, long papers, lectures, discussions, and it's ultimately a well-rounded class.
All right, so what was the hardest part of communications class, in your opinion?
The speech.
The speech?
Yeah. I mean,
You were sick though, too.
Yeah, it was rough because I was so sick that day. It was awful. But I have always really feared public speaking, but I got through it. Worked. Did it.
And we do allow you to come here and practice your speech in a safe environment before we actually film it, and then you upload it to your professor. So we give you ample opportunity to perfect it and to practice it so you're comfortable. All right. What was the hardest part in your opinion, Garrett?
Probably for me the reflection paper. It was the first reflection paper I've written. You have to actually write about yourself. It's not writing about a topic or something. So trying to figure out how to write about myself and what I can do to make myself better, like what my weaknesses are and how to improve those, that was probably the most difficult for me.
All right. Will?
I think the reflection paper was difficult, but I think that for me the hardest part was the persuasive project that we had to do. And it was just because it had so many different parts, and it was a little bit confusing on what those parts were exactly supposed to be about, because it was a persuasive project, but one part was persuading my audience, one part was like a script for me to talk from if I was going to give a speech, and then the other part was a reflection on persuasive, just ways that you can use persuasion, and ways that I use persuasion in my project. And so it was just, it was a difficult project. It learned a lot because it was my first PowerPoint I'd ever done aside from the one associated with TFC 100, and that's
All right.
the hardest part for me.
Annie?
I'd probably also say the persuasion project, just because it has to be like super detailed and it all has to be like persuasive, so you can only say one side, you can only say the positives on it. So that was probably really hard because you have to focus on one specific thing.
Christopher?
Yeah, probably the persuasion project, because it's kind of ironic because for a communications class, the communication of what to do for the persuasion project wasn't very good. So we didn't really know what the outline was or what we were supposed to do. So some people had to rewrite their papers, and but it should be fine now. They probably had that resolved. So that was the most difficult part.
All right. So, what would you say is the most important skill that you need to be successful in college classes? Anybody want to start?
Time management.
Time management.
You need to be on top of your work.
Okay, explain a little more.
Well, when you procrastinate and you get behind, the thing about college work is you can't just like, oh, I'm just going to do it in a couple hours. You think it might take you a couple hours, it's going to take you 5 more. So you get to the end of the week and you haven't done anything, and then you're freaking out because you haven't done anything, you're trying to get everything done, and it just doesn't work. So make a schedule for yourself, plan out what you're going to do, figure out like, okay, this is what I have to do this week, this is what I'm going to do on Monday and Tuesday. It helps so much. It makes all the difference.
All right. Annie?
Probably just like know your own study style, because what works for Lauren might not work for me, because like I work better under pressure. So if like I'm doing something on the weekend, like I have no problem doing that. I don't recommend that for your first college class because it's really not a great way to start. But like if like reading the whole book helps you, then read the whole book. If skimming is fine for you, then just skim. Honestly, just know your own study style.
All right. Christopher?
Yeah, I would agree with that. Just time management and rationality. So first of all, you have to manage your time properly, do your homework at correct times, make a schedule, and then as you learn more and more about the class you're taking, you can ebb and flow with your personal taste and how to finish your homework.
All right. Garrett?
Read all the directions.
Yes.
Don't, as you go through college, a lot of what they want to see is that you can be smart, but you're also following what they do. So in the syllabus, they'll tell you to do things like in the class I'm taking now, they're not telling me to read any of the Bible, or I'm taking an Old Testament class, or the Old Testament book that they've provided me with. They're just telling me that there's a quiz due this day, and in the syllabus, it tells me that I have to read like 200 pages this week, 100 pages next week, 2 books of the Bible then. So they really want you to be on top of your work and know what you have to do before it's done.
Okay. Garrett made a really good point about following directions, and I'm going to use this little illustration because it came up in the car on the way here. So our Tier 3 kids are in their second college English class, English 123, and I don't know how many of them missed this instruction that said you had to do a journal entry on 2 poems. The class had been used to doing journal entries on just one piece, either a poem or a short story, and so I don't know how much I think at least half of the class missed that instruction that that particular week the journal entry had to be on 2 poems. So they got 50s out of 100. So it's really, really important to read all of the directions. Even if you think you read it, and even if you think you know what it said 3 weeks ago, you still have to read it before you actually submit and click submit and upload that assignment. It's so important to read directions, so important. All right, what's your advice? Most important skill?
Like Chris was saying, knowing what the class requires. Because some classes, for instance, psychology, from my experience, there's no end of course exam. So you move from week to week to week. And I'm not saying that you go through the class and don't read anything and don't learn anything and just, do what it takes to get through it. Learn something and interest yourself in it, but also don't read every page for psychology. It's not worth it. There's so many pages for 1 week, and there's bold print all over those pages. And the bold print will help you. Bold print, the PowerPoints, the online busy work activities that they give you will help you help you tremendously in studying for the quizzes. And so I would say that that's one of the big things is just kind of know what the class requires, and for each class is different. Some classes you need to be reading everything, and some classes you don't. So it just depends on what your professor wants.
And you'll figure that out as you go along. You definitely will. So, how did your facilitator help you in your first college classes? In communications, and for you guys it was psychology. Remember?
Well, your facilitator definitely helps you organize your thoughts and organize the homework. And like Garrett was saying, sometimes directions can be a problem, and you miss slight things, but a lot of times your facilitator will lay out the directions much more clearly. And it's not always easy to talk to your professor because you can't always email every question that you have, because sometimes it takes a long time for them to get back to you. So your facilitator really helps with answering questions that you may have.
To me, syllabuses are confusing. They just are. But you have to know what's on the syllabus. So the facilitator will go through the syllabus and keep you on track with that and tell you when things are due, how to do this, that. And that's honestly so helpful, because without that I would miss so much in college classes.
I think the facilitators have really helped me with my time management, because sometimes they'll ask you hey, I need this paper that's due 5 weeks down the road by next week. And then you have that done and you're not stressing about it later, and you have time to do the other things. So they're really helpful with keeping you on track.
Garrett?
Probably the same as Lauren. They really help with time management. They tell you to get something done before the class even starts. Start reading your book before the class starts. Start working on this paper before it's due 3 weeks down the road. And you get much better grades because of that.
I would say that it also helps when for a particular assignment, they'll sit down and they'll talk with you about the assignment. They'll talk with you about what the professor says and what the prompt is for the paper that you're going to write, and they'll talk about that. They'll get you thinking, get your creative skills flowing, and just really help you prepare for that before you even have to start it. And like they said, they'll get you writing the papers early. Because I know with psychology and Miss Taney, I didn't think I had to write this paper that was due at the end of the class. I didn't think I had to write it 3 weeks before it was due, but I did, and it helped because I wasn't pushing to get it done at the last minute. So.
All right, awesome. So what resources have you found to be the most useful to you in your college classes? What resources? Christopher?
Depends on the class you're taking. If you're taking an English class, then Galileo, which is TFC's online library portal, will be very helpful because it's a scholarly source, and it has a bunch of scientific journals and whatnot to give you scholarly citations in the papers that you'll write. But there's also other things like your facilitator can also help you. So there's different things that can help you depending on what class you're taking.
Annie?
TFC has so many great resources for scholarly sources. They have Galileo, and then they have their library, and there's, 5 or 6 more. And those are super helpful because almost all college assignments require scholarly sources, which are peer-reviewed. Y'all probably went over that. And so just finding those on TFC is so like nice because you don't have to check if it's scholarly. You already know that it is. It's great.
Yeah, that's definitely been like the biggest resource, I bet, for all of us, is just the online library and being able to go on and get the sources that we need.
Garrett?
Honestly, I'd also have to say your professor. Ask your professor whatever question you have, whether it's what material is going to be on this quiz in the future, what day this is due, what you want to see in this paper. The worst thing they can say is no. They're never going to give you a bad grade because you asked a question wrong. Be polite and be respectful and ask questions. You can get so much out of asking your questions.
And when you ask your question, run it through grammar and spell check first before you send it to your professor. All right, Will?
I would agree that Galileo has been helpful. It has a lot of resources, but with a lot of resources there also comes challenge, because you can type in one search word and you'll get thousands, hundreds of thousands of results that you've got to sort through. And so there are filters and stuff that you can put on there to help you refine your results. But I would say one thing that's helpful is if you're writing about a specific topic, go onto Google and Google it and just kind of look through what they have there. I know you can't use Wikipedia. I wish I could, but you can. But go on there and look through to see what you have, to see if you can help yourself refine your topic before you go to Galileo and search through all the millions of sources that they have on this particular topic.
So they've all talked about Galileo and the TFC library. We're going to invite the TFC librarian to campus probably before you start the communications class, so she can kind of walk you through the library portal, how to do searches, how to narrow your searches, how to use that resource that they've talked about today. There are a tremendous number of resources there, and when you can effectively use them, it can cut down on the amount of time it takes to do your research. And that's what our goal is by inviting the librarian here to help us. So, all right. So, now you were sitting where they were a year, 2 years ago, right? Kind of like, it's like a deer in the headlights, like, oh no, what am I getting myself into, right? Okay, so what advice do you have for them? You're 1 year out of that, you guys in the middle are 2 years out of that. What advice do you have for them? Anybody want to start? Christopher?
Don't overreact. It's not too bad. It's just another class. And if you manage your time properly and do what your professor says, then you should be fine.
Probably don't be scared to ask the professor questions to get help, because that's what they're there for, is to help you increase your knowledge. And also, if you have like a problem in the course, don't be scared to like email and be like, hey, this is not what the syllabus says, or ask me. Honestly, I've sent some angry emails, or I've composed some angry emails to professors, which I didn't send because it would be disrespectful. Because I said that is, so don't like be scared to challenge your professor on something, because I know that I definitely have been scared to do that in the past. But make sure they're not like angry or mean, because they'll get a little upset at you for that.
Well, and I don't want to put you on the spot, but I do want you to talk about when you challenged your humanities professor and how that ended.
Oh. We had a humanities professor, and she was, never mind. But
She was expecting junior and senior level work, college junior, college senior, almost graduate level work out of an entry level class.
and I hadn't even had English 1, college English 1 when I took that class. And she expected, so if you had like a 500-word journal, she wanted it to be 1,000 words. And that's like crazy. I don't have time to write 1,000 words on a journal that I really don't care about. So I sent her an email. I was like, why am I getting like 70s on these journals? And I was pretty upset. And then my mom was like, you can't send that. That's just mean. So, and then I finally got her to like review my papers. And so she would like read through them, and she'd be like, okay, you have to change this, that, and the other. So I would change it, and then I would send it to her to get graded. And so honestly, just like, don't be scared to like ask the professor, like, hey, what am I doing wrong? How can I get a better grade on this?
Awesome. All right, Lauren?
I would just say not to overstress and just to take things one step at a time, because it might seem really scary at first. It might seem like it's a lot, but it really is manageable, and I know you guys can get through it if you just, do it step by step.
Don't stress and use your resources. The college classes aren't that bad. You get a couple with some pretty difficult professors, but as long as you use your resources, you will make it through the class. They're not a step above high school in the sense that you can't complete it without completing high school. They're not incredibly tough. And if you think you have a question on something with one of the quizzes or papers with the professor, I've gotten so many points from emailing the professor and telling him, this, we never studied this on your lecture. This is a quiz in your lecture, but there's nothing in the lecture about it. They've given me points about it. Points. I've probably stepped 2 classes up to an A from emailing them that these questions weren't studied or aren't correct. Don't take it for what it looks like. Make sure you know that your answer was wrong, or you know that your answer was right.
I would say the biggest thing is listen to your facilitators, because they know where you've been. They've been there before, maybe not dual enrolled, but they've been in college before. And even Mrs. Watson, didn't she graduate from TFC? So she graduated from TFC, so she knows TFC and the people there and the classes there, and so you need to listen to them and just listen to their advice and what they tell you to do, and just manage your time. And like everybody else has said, don't stress about it, because it's not that much harder than high school. It's just more work. I think they try to overwhelm you with just so much work, but if you break it down and eat it one bite at a time, it's not that bad.
That's really good advice. All right, now, what I want to do is give you guys a chance to ask them some questions. All right, what questions do you have as you're sitting here looking at college level? Anybody? No questions at all? Parents, do you have any questions?
Yeah.
Okay, awesome.
I was curious, when you've all mentioned time management, what does that look like for each of you? I mean, do you have timers set? Do you go through a planner and look at your assignment and write everything down so that you know what to do Monday through Friday and add a Saturday if you have to? What does that look like for each of you?
Well, for me, I just, when I first start a class, I really have to feel out the first week. I have no idea what it's going to be like. So I try to give myself as much time as possible. And then after that first week, I know everything, because a lot of it's just repeating. So it's not a new paper every week. It's just a threaded discussion this week, next week, and it's the same assignment over and over. So once you know how long it takes you to do one assignment, you'll be able to repeat that. So you just have to figure out, you just have to feel your way through the first week, and then once you do that, you'll be fine for the class.
For me, it takes like 2 or 3 weeks to get situated into a new class, because each class is so different. So for me, I would get like either my high school work done at the very first beginning of the week or on Monday, because all of the TFC assignments are due on Sunday, or they could be due on Friday. Some professors will do that. So it's really important to get like the high school stuff done out of the way, so you don't have to rush on your high school work and your college work.
Okay.
Yeah, for my time management, I always just get myself a planner, and at the beginning of the week, I look at all that I have to do in the week, and I plan out each day what I need to get done to accomplish all of my work. And so then each day I have a little checklist, like, okay, I need to get done this, this, and this. And by the end of the week, I've got everything done.
It's like practicing an instrument in a way. The more if you take a really long time and you practice the guitar for 3 hours, you're not going to learn as much as you would practicing the guitar for 5 minutes every week, like every day, every week. If you sit down and you try and complete this giant chunk of school in one day because you want to go do something the other day, it's not going to be the best quality. So time management for me is taking my Monday and starting on the week, planning it out, going and just making sure that I don't have giant chunks of school every single day. I may have to do that for some classes because of the load, but still not make it to where I'm sitting there for 5 hours because I can't move. Otherwise, I'll turn it in late.
I think I still haven't mastered the whole time management thing. I don't know if I ever will. I don't know if anybody ever will. But for me, it's just I know that I can't do everything Sunday, read all my work Sunday. I've done that a couple times, and it's not fun to sit there on Sunday while your family's upstairs, watch the movie, relaxing, and you're down there reading away in your book, trying to get it done so you can take the quiz. And so I just know that I can't, excuse me, I can't start it late. I got to get going at the beginning of the week and just keep working on it little by little. Like Garrett said, reading it all in one time does not help you gain any information. Doing it pieces here and there is much better.
Okay. Thank you.
All right, any other questions, parents or students? Y'all are being so quiet. Okay, so they're probably sitting here looking at you guys saying, oh, well, they're just all super smart intellectual kids.
Which is true.
So I would like you all to speak honestly about that and where you feel you were academically going into this and just how you've succeeded. What's been the key to your success? So I'll tell you, they all have, for the most part, A's with maybe a B sprinkled in here or there in all of their high school and college classes, all right? So they've all done extremely well. So talk to me about that. Annie, I'll pick on you first.
Great. I am not a genius person. Like, I am not good at school. I don't like school. I don't know. So my grades are, they're good because I apply myself. Like, I'm like very persistent to like get things done, but I am not like a brilliant person. Like, you ask me a question and be like, oh yeah, it's 45. Like, no. Like, I struggle. I do, but I get it done because I'm like, okay, I have to do it to get a good grade. So I'm not at all a genius.
But you're very motivated.
Yes.
Very motivated, yes. Okay, anybody else?
Honestly, I do get easy A's with a lot of these college classes, but it's more in the mindset than it is how smart I am. You can have a genius taking these college classes and they can breeze through it, but they're not going to if they attack it with a negative outlook. I know that's a lot of hooey-jooey stuff. Does your outlook really affect how good you are with school? It does. It really does. If you have a negative outlook, you procrastinate. You procrastinate, you do big chunks of school. You do big chunks of school, you do worse because you don't actually understand what you read. You just see a bunch of words going through your brain and out the other side. It really is a lot about the mindset.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think the secret to my success has just been enjoying these college classes. And I've always been somebody that really enjoys school. Don't know why, it's just always been incredible. I love going to classes, I love learning new things. I'm a huge math and science nerd. But yeah, if you really enjoy what you're doing and you want to learn about these things, then the assignments don't seem that bad because it's fun, you know? So just, don't stress too much and enjoy it. It's been what I've done, so it's been successful.
Will?
The question was, I'm just, so many people I'm lost again.
All right. The question was basically, I said that most of the college kids that we have are not geniuses. And where do you see yourself on that continuum? And how have you succeeded?
Well, I would say the biggest thing for me that I've learned from just doing college classes is writing. English 10 was a big jump for me because I hadn't done much writing at all before that. So I learned a lot with English 10, and then moving into college classes, and especially communications, because they had a decent amount of writing, was an even bigger jump. But you just have to keep working at it, and I'm not a genius either. I don't think I was super pleased with my psychology grade, but it's less than perfect is okay. I'm not saying strive for less than perfect, but less than perfect is okay, and you don't need to beat yourself up about it.
That's right. All right. Christopher?
Just taking advantage of the things that are given to you is the best way to get ahead, because there are many things that are given to you, whether it's Galileo or Grammarly, as Mrs. Torrey mentioned, and Grammarly is an editing site, so it edits your paper for you. So just taking advantage of your facilitator, your professor, all these things will help you get good grades, so you don't necessarily need to read every single book cover to cover, or need to have a big vocabulary, or be intelligent. You just need to take advantage of what's given to you. And I know that I don't even do that, and I still get pretty easy A's, so it shows it's very easy doable.
All right. One last chance to ask any questions. Anybody? Last chance. All right.
Okay, I've got one thing I want you to think about. As we've talked about time management, you know, you're talking about your daily schoolwork. Many of your assignments are due by 11:55 on a specific day, or 11:59. And you know, it's 10:45 at night, and you're saying, okay, I've got an hour to get this done. The thing is, you've got to submit everything through the internet. And I don't know about y'all, but the internet goes down at my house on a regular basis. So as you consider time management, also remember, you may have your work done on Tuesday. But if you have not, don't wait till 11:58 to upload that paper. Because if the internet is down, it's late. Okay? One of the things that happened a while back, Dusty had a paper, he waited till the last minute, and our internet was down. So we went up to McDonald's. It was so slow we could not upload the paper. We had to call the Tories and go sit in their driveway to get on their internet to upload his paper. This is what we're doing, you know,
Midnight.
right at midnight. Remember, you've got to upload these papers on the internet. Do not assume you've got till 11:59. Because if that internet goes down, 11:59 is coming whether the internet is up or not. And your paper is late if you did not get it done on time. So be cognizant when not just managing the daily time, but remembering, get those papers in plenty of time so that if the internet is having problems, you have time to do what we did and go somewhere else and get the thing uploaded. Okay?
All right, thank you. So as you're going through your college classes, I'm sure any of these students, as well as our other tier 2 and tier 3 students, will be glad to help you out if you have a question, if you need some advice. The reality is the content of the classes that we take here at Tandem through TFC, their core classes, that content doesn't change much from quarter to quarter. So the geography class that you're going to take is probably almost identical to the geography class that these students had. The communications class that you're going to take is almost identical to the comm class that these guys have had. All right? So if you have a question as you're going through a class, don't hesitate to ask them. There's a wealth of experience right here on this campus that you can draw from. All right? So I know y'all are going to do fantastic. These guys have all done very, very well. You guys are going to do just as well. So thank you, panel. We appreciate your honesty. You're awesome. Good job, guys. Thank you.